Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast. And we're here, I don't know, Bob, do you call it the loo? What's the
Well, yeah.
It's the loo.
Really,
and it's not even the Saint loo, even though it's close.
Exactly.
It's certainly not the bathroom loo.
We have quite a sign up there you can go get your selfie in front of, and it's the loo.
The loo.
The loo.
I like it. So, Bob, you want to introduce yourself, your company, just a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Sure. My name's Bob Sale. I am a partner with Rich on R&R Storage Solutions is what we're known on Facebook. I think the actual name of the company is R&R Land Management.
Okay.
But we are known as R&R Storage Solutions. We've been here since 2018 and really enjoy the shed thing.
It's going good. And when you got a name like Bob Sale,
yeah,
I just love the name, the last name Sale. It's like, I was born to do this. So sort of, we'll give like the back history, at least on a little bit about this. Let's kind of go through like your shed history. You actually came to know, like, should we even say sheds? We should say storage.
Yeah. I started out, we had purchased a single building that was a /office/ self-storage facility. It wasn't much of a facility at the time, but it had about 10 or 12 units. We quickly added on 2 buildings, 30 by 120, and basically upped our self-storage units to about 73 units that we rent.
Okay. So you come into this with let's see, your background was signs.
Yes.
That was, so you grew up, let's just go all the way back. You started in St. Louis.
Correct.
You end up over in the Illinois side because, like all sane people, you come to Illinois.
Right. Yeah. Some things I've done have been mistakes.
To say the least.
Yeah, I'm not the proudest of, coming from Missouri to Illinois, but it has become home. I mean, it's, there's a lot of good people here. Just wish the taxes weren't so high.
Yeah. Don't we all? Thank you, Chicago, for making all of our decisions. We appreciate it. Right. So, but you were in the sign business, and then you kind of got the space because it would expand your sign.
Yeah. Actually, we were operating out of our house, and what happens is somebody got called out. You're not supposed to be operating a business out of your house, and someone got called out on it and started pointing fingers. Well, one of those fingers pointed at me, so the city was after me to either conform to what they wanted or find another property to operate a business. So we went looking, and we found this self-storage facility, and it had all it was right on the highway, and it had room for expansion. It had great room for operating our sign company.
So then you end up buying the original storage space that's here.
Correct.
And then you add to it. Mm-hmm. And as luck would have it, like this, I think you're the first person I'm interviewing that's actually been in the traditional storage, self-storage business, but you kind of saw the ability to cross over.
Correct.
At some point and add sheds as a...
Yeah, we actually started with the carports, and I was more interested in keeping my truck out of the sun, but we started selling carports, 13 or 14 years ago. And, it just, after selling the carports and so forth, we actually acquired 5 acres here next door, and my intention was to do more self-storage, and then a company built a huge facility down the street from us. So I started looking at the portable sheds as a way to make this 5 acres work for us. And that's how we ended up in the shed business.
So you got into the shed business around 2018.
Correct.
So good time to get in.
It was. It totally exceeded our expectations. I mean, I really looked to make an extra, $1,000, $2,000 a month, and it really exceeded what we expected.
And you sell, so the brand that you guys sell is Cardinal.
Correct.
So let's clarify to those who were not Southern Illinoisans. Let's get beyond that. So obviously, a lot of you guys know Cardinal as the mule manufacturer out of Carrier Mills.
Correct.
But this is a brand of buildings.
Correct. Cardinal buildings. And they didn't start making the mule. They actually started in the building business and saw a need for the mule and invented it from there.
It's kind of interesting. That's how creativity works.
Right.
Like sometimes you start in one thing and wind up in another. I remember starting in purchasing, going on to sell sheds, and then like people say, what's your trajectory to podcast? And it's kind of like, that's, I don't know. It's all the space was there, took it.
Right.
Kind of like the guys with the mule, but they do have a pretty good presence here in Southern Illinois and, around. And so I know a couple of guys that sell for them. They make a really nice product.
Yeah, they do. And they stand behind it. So, customer satisfaction was one of the most important things to me when I was getting involved in this. I wanted a company that I knew was going to stand behind their product.
Yeah.
And deliver that experience that I'm used to providing my clients. And Cardinals surely fit that build.
I assume, so this is kind of maybe a running joke or whatever, but like we would always make the joke that, hey, your other shed sellers are not your competition, that self-storage would arguably your biggest competition. And self-storage nationally is a much larger product than backyard storage, like portable storage sheds, at least, from what research I've done that I'm aware of. And happy to talk with anybody who disagrees because I'd like to be more informed. Right. But from what I can see, how typically you're selling storage.
Correct.
What it boils down to is you're selling storage. You're selling a place.
One
you're
side
either renting
or the other.
or yes, you're renting or you're selling them something. Has it complemented your business to be able to add sheds to it?
It's worked well for us. A lot of times you're going to get somebody that maybe is living in an apartment that's using your self-storage, maybe they've moved on from that apartment to a home, and it's just a natural, they've been here, they see the shed. So it's just naturally then easy for them to come to me and say, hey, what's it take to get a shed in my backyard? So it's worked out really well for us.
Yeah. We've rented for a long time. Mm-hmm. We have the unit. What's the biggest difference you kind of see in like running the self-storage rental side versus selling someone something either on a rent-own contract or even a cash sale, selling them one that's going to be in their backyard?
It's quite different. The sales, selling a shed is quite different than renting a unit. Bottom line though, you're still developing relationships with people. You just, as long as you're there to comfort that person, provide something that they need, it works well.
Yeah. I would think it has complemented your business. You feel like you've sold more by adding the storage like sheds to your lot? Do you feel like it's helped you to sell more?
Yeah. It also brings awareness to having the self-storage also. Maybe there's somebody that stops by, decides they quite can't afford to pull the trigger on a shed, but might, go ahead and utilize my self-storage.
Hello, shed builder. With each new year, builders are searching for ways to increase efficiency and safety. Simply put, the Joey Pivot Lift is an investment into your building crew and your bottom dollar. Manufacturers are able to save hours and dollars by making painting, decking, and roofing a safer and quicker process. The Joey Pivot Lift turns 360 degrees inside of a 50-inch radius and lasts an average 8-hour workday before needing charged. It has a minimum platform height of 61.5 inches, allowing you to reach into areas with ease versus the traditionally used 6-foot ladder. No tripping or falling hazards exist, and no need to climb down and restock. For roofers, simply load your metal on the lift prior to getting started and throw your roofing screws into the built-in tool tray. Pricing is just $8,295 for the 60 series, $9,685 for the 70 series, and $10,675 for the roofing model. For exact pricing that includes tax and delivery to your door, contact the Shed Geek at info@shedgeek.com or dial 618-309-3648. We're raising building standards with Joey Pivot Lift.
Do you see, I would imagine you see a difference in price per square foot for ownership versus price per square foot for...
I've never looked at it that way.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably something I'm going to do after this podcast is look at that. But, there's a certain dollar amount per square foot as far as rental goes, and I guess I've never related that to the...
Well, self-storage is rent to rent, so it's pretty well understood, right? Like you're not renting to own it.
Correct.
You come in and you rent it, and you're going to rent it.
Yeah.
And like that's the space you're occupying.
Yeah, you don't expect to own it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I've always said backyard storage for people who are looking at traditional storage. It's a little bit different. It's kind of like selling them on the idea that you're taking this individual unit and you're cutting it and throwing it on a trailer and bringing it right to your backyard.
Right.
So now you'll have the opportunity to keep it, whether you pay cash for it or rent it until you eventually own it. So in some ways, what I think is genius is it kind of competes with your current product. Because for those who are like, hey, I don't want to rent this thing for 20 years,
right?
You can sell them something then.
Exactly. Well, or rent it to them.
Or rent it to
with
them.
the expectation that they're going to own it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're able to cover both sides of the market. But now I know that Cardinal does more than traditional 10 by 16s or 10 by 12s. So
Correct. I mean, in fact, we've used them to build many self-storage units.
Really?
And, for those customers or people or friends of mine that have come in and asked me, hey, how does your self-storage work? I mean, is that a good thing? I'm like, well, this is the easy way to find out. I can bring you a building, build them a self-storage portable building that they can test the waters,
What are some other things that you see folks who come here for a storage shed versus traditional storage? Tiny home market or people who want to live off grid?
Yeah, we've dabbled in all of that. Our county's a little tough as far as the tiny house because of, minimum square footage and so forth. So our county's kind of against the tiny home, at least their zoning is at this point. That may change in the future, it may not. But we see everything from, the horse barns to the great big garages. I mean, it's, we have a building for everybody.
What's been your favorite moment of like customer like moment versus in storage sheds versus like self-storage? Do you feel like you build a different like relationship with those guys?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of attract the older coffee crowd anyway. I've got old guys that come like to drink coffee with me in the morning, and one that we did right there. I mean, this gentleman was in his 80s, and his girlfriend had given him a stained glass window, so we built a building around that window.
How awesome is that? I mean, the window itself looks cool, and I was going to ask you about it because you guys put it on a canvas.
Yeah.
Which, let me guess, that's really convenient since you own a sign shop, or at least have people right?
Right.
Yeah, that probably made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I guess I have a little bit of an advantage as far as the advertising aspect.
Well, I noticed even when I pulled onto your lot, like you kind of set yourself apart from traditional shed lots because you can put signage up that has like just unique stuff about it, like the little finger out here pointing,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
At different things and probably ideas that you can come up with, but you can execute on those pretty easy.
Right.
In the traditional storage business, do you feel like you keep those customers for a long time?
Well, most of them come in telling you that they're going to use it for a month or two, and 9-10 months later they're still renting. So not everybody falls into that pattern. There's a lot of people that'll use that avenue for staging a house to sell a house. So as soon as they sell their house and buy a new house, they come get all their stuff.
Yeah.
But most of the time, most of those customers are going to be here for a while.
You keep it filled up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's full 99% of the time.
Really?
You have a few move outs here and there, but those holes fill up quickly.
So you feel like it could be a good move to even expand on that more?
Yeah. We were going to expand. I mean, that 5 acres, this 5 acres that we purchased, I mean, that was the intention. And when somebody built one down the street, the portable buildings came to mind, because every time I've driven past a lot, I've always looked, and I've found myself stopping sometimes, not even needing a shed. I just thought they were cool.
Yeah. They've changed from what you would have seen in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s to what you can do with a unit now. I mean, your stained glass window on the end of a side utility or whatever it's called there with the dormer, and that's a perfect example of what sheds have come to now, and being able to be customizable.
Correct.
I think that adds a lot of value, and it seems like Cardinal's done that really good. So, hello, shed seller. Do you feel like some days you are on an island trying to navigate through the complexity of perfecting your shed sales process? For years, the shed seller has often had the do the best you can standard. At Shed U, we want to help you make doing the best you can more than guesswork with a proven shed sales process. Shed U was created for you, the shed seller, and aims to help you, the shed seller, learn the best techniques for selling sheds. How do we do that? Elements of Shed University include sheducation you deserve as a shed seller, such as sales process management, lead follow-up, and sales script development. But wait, there's more. Attending Shed U is double the fun, because after you attend Shed U on January 23rd and 24th of 2024 at the Knoxville Convention Center, you can attend the Garage Shed Carport Builder Show on January 24th and 25th. That's right. All registrants for Shed U receive complimentary admission to the GSCB show, which includes even more educational opportunities. If you have been wanting to improve your shed sales process for yourself or your sales team, be sure to attend Shed University, the obvious choice to grow your shed sales. At Shed University, class is now in session. You said whenever you expanded to the 5 acres, one thing we were talking about over lunch is you said, man, it sure would have been nice to know what I was getting into.
Right.
And that might just be an Illinois thing, or maybe that's an everywhere thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess some aspects of it may have just been Illinois, but yeah, I mean, we ended up spending $30,000 or $40,000 of on just getting the lot ready for storage buildings than what we expected to spend. We're on the Cahokia Trail, so Illinois required us to hire an archaeologist to come out here and dig for Indian bones, and had they found any, the state of Illinois would have took over the project and we would have been done.
So you would be paying
for somebody to shut us down.
Shut you down, yeah. Sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah. Not to mention all the endangered species. We had to do a study on that as well.
Yeah, so it was well, let me ask you this. Was it worth it? Do you feel like it's been worth it to do?
Well, I mean, in the long run, yes. But had I known going into it, I probably wouldn't. I probably would have pulled back the reins and maybe not did this.
Yeah.
But it exceeded our expectations. I mean, we came into this right before COVID. Once we had the lot out here and, was selling buildings, we were selling them so fast we could, before you could even get them in, they were gone. And it just, so the extra $30,000 or $40,000 was easily recouped. However, I didn't realize that when I was spending it, that it would, I was thinking it's going to take me a long time to get that money back.
Yeah, so it's all in all, it's turned out to be a good decision. Now, you have quite a few units here. Mm-hmm. How many do you guys keep quite a few typically
we
around?
Try to stay around 100 buildings on the lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you feel like that would change your success versus having 20?
When I first got into this, I thought, boy, I have to have that many to be successful. But I guess after all these years, I mean, I see lots that are much smaller that are capable of producing the same kind of numbers or more than what we do.
Yeah.
So, do you have to have that inventory? No, probably not. Does it help you bring in people from 30, 40 miles away? Probably so.
Yeah. And you're so interesting because we don't have to get in specifics of like numbers or anything like that, but you've seen some success in what you're doing, and you've done this kind of through community more so than online presence, you would say?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have quite a bit of traffic that drives through here, so we don't spend a fortune on advertising. I mean, we do have an advertising budget. We spend a little bit, but most of what we're doing is the drive-bys, just having the presence on Facebook, having a good website that has inventory on it. That's searchable inventory is important, I think. But yeah, we don't spend a whole bunch of money advertising.
You do like customer appreciation days. You were telling me about that. So
Yes.
they may see in the background, I'm not sure, some of the folks here from Yellowstone.
Yep.
And I should have put on my Geek stuff today. Hung out with the crowd back here.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But you again, sign company kind of worked out there. You guys did like a little horse barn presentation.
And we set up a horse barn, put a floor in it, and had a gentleman picking a guitar, and fed everybody and made sure there was cold drinks and so forth, and just thanking our community for accepting us.
Yeah, I feel like all of those things that you can do in conjunction with everything else, including your advertising and marketing, seem to make sense. What has sort of been your customer philosophy that you've approached since getting into the shed side?
Well, I guess my philosophy on customers is just making sure they're happy, they're satisfied. I spend as much time as they need to understand what's expected of them, as far as lot preparation or so on and so forth, because the last thing you want to hear is, your hauler calling you going, hey, I can't put this building in, it's on a hillside, so we spend a lot of time just, setting up the customer so they know exactly what their responsibility is, and also in knowing what ours are.
Well, and you have, I guess you have an argument in your back pocket. Like you kind of want the Cardinal guys to say we can't fit that building in there, and say, what do you mean? The mule has some capabilities or
capability issues?
I feel like it's an argument in your back pocket, so you can kind of tease Steve and the guys over there. That would be pretty funny to say, what do you mean? So now, but you guys have, you have like some buildings on chassis here, like you have the cabins. As the more rural area, do you feel like that attracts customers a little bit more?
The cabins, it's like me driving by. I don't have any use for a storage building, but when I would drive by lots, they would catch my eye. The cabins catch people's eye. That gets people to stop. Having one on a chassis is a little different. We were after the customer that maybe owned multiple hunting grounds, or the farmer that, could hunt at different areas of his property where he could move a cabin around and have a good, warm place to sleep. So that's where that chassis.
Yeah, no, it's very neat. We'll try to grab a picture of it because it's just a cool building. And the one thing I remember about Cardinal was the overhangs. I always thought they were really nice because they did, quite a bit of overhang on their, I don't know.
The Victorian. They call that the Victorian, which that's a Victorian.
Looks really nice, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I remember that specifically. Even that's one of the ways that I could tell if it was a Cardinal dealership. But they do good signage, they do good brand recognition and things like that as well too. Whenever they go about, so it's interesting watching the whole history of the shed industry unfold.
Right.
And I don't know. Sometimes I think I might have been a little short-sighted with Shed Geek. I almost think we could have went with Storage Geek.
Yeah.
Even though we're shed related, I'm starting to see like the value in expanding into other areas beyond just sheds. You have furniture here. A lot of shed lots have furniture.
Right.
You sell carports and larger expanded metal buildings.
Correct.
You see that a lot, almost everywhere. Some are a little bit limited on that space-wise.
Right.
But still, it's very common to kind of see these other things complement.
Correct. The furniture has been a great thing for us. The poly furniture, especially during COVID, you could not keep that in stock.
Yeah.
People are tired of, buying that Chinese product that falls apart in a year or two, and the poly furniture is expensive, but the customer as well as us have that expectation that it's going to last a lifetime.
Yeah. I think sometimes a higher price point is okay if you can show the value.
Exactly.
That thing's going to sit out there. That bench is going to sit out there for a long time. Like how many have we went through?
Right. Well, see, everybody wants their garage back, and patio furniture you buy at Home Depot, you know what? It's going to have to be put in the garage because it's not going to go through our winters and not rust and fall apart,
And you're going to sell me on taking something home right now, aren't you? That's a line if I ever heard one. Hey, it was good. It was good.
You don't have to store it. Yeah.
You don't have to store it. You can leave it out. I mean, pressure wash it, a little soap, and it cleans right up, even if it gets a little bit of.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, what a great. Yeah, I sold furniture, never used the line.
Right.
I was like, man, that's pretty good. That's exactly what we do.
No, you're welcome to use it.
Well, I don't have anything to sell hardly anymore, but you never know when all this is done and who knows, the Lord says, hey, move on to something else. Maybe I'll be back in shed sales when it's all done. And just right now, me and my wife are having a blast when we're out on the road. We just finished the show, the Shed Expo down in Knoxville, South Carolina last week, out with good friends of ours, RTL National. Appreciate them for their constant dedication to the show. But we're heading to Texas, going to Georgia and Florida, and hopefully Phoenix in January. So, I mean, we're really getting to do what we enjoy, and travel around and talk to shed people. And I'll do it as long as it lasts.
Sure.
Long as the advertising's there and the marketing dollars are there, I guess I'll do it. So y'all sign up for some marketing or go buy something from somebody today. Tell them Shed Geek sent you. It goes a long way. We are doing a couple other things to try to, revenue adventures to allow us to do this. But how cool to be able to just talk to guys in the shed industry. From all across the country. And I'm absolutely loving it. Every time I meet somebody new, to me, it's really cool to kind of have the insight to see what some of these guys are doing, whether they're a manufacturer or a shed salesperson or maybe a hauler. And they're telling me about the experiences that they're seeing. You get to kind of see like where those things are relatable from Baton Rouge to Idaho to Pennsylvania. And then you're able to see some differences in how the market's set up there just in general. I mean, you were talking about consignment, versus like, somebody who wholesales and purchases and does more of like a vertically integrated kind of thing if they're a manufacturer. And and then there's so many other things that are coming to the forefront, like meeting your customer online. I mean, and I was really surprised. We don't have to get in numbers. I was really surprised that you guys are seeing really a fair amount of success by not pushing a whole lot of online presence. So,
I mean, we're there, but that's not our forte. I mean, here I'm an older guy, I guess, 55.
Is that old?
Maybe.
I turned 43 on Wednesday. 55 seems really close.
But at my age, I really have a hard time communicating through text. I don't know what you mean when you text something. I don't see your facial expression. So I have a hard time reading that.
You're old school sales because you can read the body language.
I need to see a person in his eyes to know what he's thinking or what he's wanting to do. And it's, I've struggled with that. And
a lot of guys have like so much success with that. I think that's why a lot of times shed lots will hire like an old retired fella who's like, you know what? I don't have any stress. I just want to kind of sit here, kick my feet up, man. Whenever somebody comes in, I'll sell them a building. And there's nothing wrong with that approach if it sort of fits your business model. But then there's like these super aggressive personalities that are like, man, we're hitting them up online, doing all the stuff. You know what I mean? Google ads, Facebook ads, trying to reach every nook and cranny, follow up.
I would love to say I'm the best at that, but I'm not.
That's okay.
What I do well though is when I have a customer in front of me is making them comfortable, and I'm one of those guys that sells from product knowledge. I spend a lot of time on the product knowledge because I don't like not knowing the answer. I don't mind telling them if I don't know, but I spend a lot of time on product knowledge. So when I'm talking to a customer, I don't want to stumble over, whether or not it's 16-inch on center or whatever, whatever it may be. But I wish I could say I'm the best at following up.
Man, you're doing great. You're doing great. I can tell like your presentation in your office here, how you make people feel whenever they walk in. So like I'd be happy to buy from you if I was a customer. I sure would be happy if I walked in here and remind me of another Cardinal dealer, a buddy of mine, Don, down in Anna.
Oh, I know Don. Yeah. Don come up here before he took on Cardinal. He come up here and spent the afternoon with me. He's a great guy.
Awesome guy. Yeah. Awesome guy. Sold mobile homes for years. Right. And it's just a good dude. I definitely remember Don from several years back now already. It's kind of crazy to think that. And Ann, just great people, really are. And so it's really cool to kind of see everything come full circle. I mean, I think I'm coming up on like 10 years in the shed space now.
Right.
That's kind of crazy how you enter into that, even though it's only been 2.5 years on the podcast. And we're trying to set ourselves up for, like another 5 years to see if we can do this. And if it's what the audience wants, as long as we can continue to add good content to your day.
Sure.
When you're driving down the road, I really want you to be entertained, be educated, laugh. Don't take yourself so serious. None of us make it out alive, so
that's right.
Might as well have a good time while you're here. And I think that walking in your purpose, that's important. Do you think is sales just sort of? I know you sold cars even way back.
Sure.
Do you feel like sales is just sort of in your blood?
For sure. I enjoy the sales aspect. The age. You can't outrun age, and the longer I've been doing signs and working overhead, and my shoulders are going. So I wanted something that when I'm done hanging signs, I can sit here and write orders all day long. Whether the shoulders hurt or not. What I can't do is hold up a sign over my head anymore. So this gives me a great thing to wind down my career, and eventually, maybe do some traveling like you're getting to do now.
Yeah. I know we call it work, and it is, I guess, technically me and Deanna's trying to take a vacation in December. That way we can actually get away from work.
Right.
In spite of the fact that we're traveling to work, we're going to travel to not work for a change. But dude, I love the lot here. You even have like a nice little, like you said, 5 acres, but you got like a little golf cart that you take your customers around on. It's like a Camping World experience when people come here to buy a shed. You kind of give them a little bit of that.
Right. That was important to me. I mean, we started out with just a 4-seater, the 2-seater with the rear back facing golf cart. And I quickly realized that these people are showing up with kids, and grandma and grandpa. And so we went to the limo cart. And, the people, I even, if they just want to look around, I offer, you want to drive this? Or, and a lot of them will take me up on it, ones that are familiar with driving around a golf cart anyway.
How do you approach competition? Like, I know that you have some competition here. We would have sold as far up this way whenever we were selling.
Sure.
But how do you what's your approach to competition, both in the sheds and really the self-storage?
The self-storage, I've always it's not my number one job. Okay. So I've always just made sure I was priced just under everyone around me.
Yeah.
The yellow book, the yellow pages.
Yeah.
That still comes into play on self-storage.
Yeah, nice.
They go down the line and call everyone, and all they're asking is price.
Yeah. not a whole lot of customer acquisition time. You're selling pretty well on price.
It's
per rent
it's
per month.
price, yeah. And,
You can talk about like
and who's answering the phone, because just like some of these shed lots that don't have any staff there,
okay,
there's these self-storage facilities that don't have staff or are not answering their phone. It's pretty easy to get that customer if you're the only one answering the phone.
yeah, there's a lot to be said for just showing up.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, I know police officers, you'll notice that's how they live 90% of the time is on uniform presence, they would say. It's just being there and present
Yeah.
that deters.
It slows me down.
It does me too. It does me too. Whenever I've got that heavy foot. Yeah, just being there, you're like, oh no, did they get me? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I love it, dude.
It's a horrible feeling, isn't it?
It always is, isn't it? Whenever they pull up behind you,
Right.
you're always like, I could pay for this, but I just don't want to.
Right.
I don't know why. And I get my excuse hat on right away. Sometimes, I've had more luck with just telling people, like officers, like, hey, man, you got me. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was in a hurry. What do you want me to say? You already got me.
Right.
Now I'm going to, now I'm going to be late anyway. So, it's like, there's no reasoning with them. Like, I wish I'd have slowed down. Like, duh. No, I wish I would have now. I thought I was going to get away with it. What do you want me to tell you? You know? So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, just being present, answering the phone. And I don't know, you could, do you guys do like cooling units or anything like that? Like I could see where like if you did cooling units versus traditional storage.
As far as the self-storage.
Yeah.
No, ours are not climate control.
Yeah.
There's a need for that though,
Yeah.
because, I get that phone call all the time.
Yeah.
Do you have climate control? Do you
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a need for that. And that might be something I look into further, but if you're interested in the self-storage business, I don't know anyone that has gone wrong that has got into it. So
yeah, have you not, like, I know U-Haul was buying them up like crazy. Have you not gotten those calls yet? Or
I've gotten them since we started
Really?
back in 2004.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, every month I get either a postcard or a phone call of someone trying to buy a self-storage business. But, I don't have a pension. You know, I've worked all my life self-employed, so I didn't, I don't have a pension. My self-storage is my pension.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not available.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
yeah, it's something that you got to keep. It provides good income, and
exactly.
And now the sheds kind of complement that. What's your long-term goal there? You figure this has been a pretty good deal. You want to keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably, at 55. I mean, I thought I was going to be retired at 50. When I was in my 30s, I thought I'll be done. But no, you got to get to that age where you can start getting your health care paid for. I don't want to say free health care, but the health care that we've
you've
all
earned
paid,
it, I'm sure,
that we've all paid for our whole life. But so I'm on a 7-year, probably 5-7 years. I don't know. I'd like to move on. I mean, I don't know if I'll sell or totally be done. Maybe it's just a matter of putting somebody in that I trust, a manager or what have you, and moving on from there. But my wife and I just recently purchased a place down in Florida. So our intention, at least in the short-term goal, is to be able to go down for January, February, March and do the snowbird thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're from Illinois, it's super attractive to be down there in winter months. I know we're chasing the weather everywhere we go, so we're trying to visit all the northern states in the summertime.
Sure.
Like that's my preference.
Right.
Anyway, if interviews come up and I need to go, if we can make it work. And, for those of you who don't know, certainly go to Shed Geek Podcast and check out our Facebook page, or a lot of times you'll even see on the Shed Sales Professionals page, I'll put our route out there. I try not to bug the guys too much on the manufacturer side and the shed hauling side. I just don't want to blow their pages up with my garbage, right? But I try to put that information out there because a lot of times that's some of the best ways to get interviews of people that you didn't know you were going to have a chance to meet.
Sure.
And if you can have
that's how we kind of hooked up. You put your route out there, and I said, hey,
it's been 4 or 5 months in the coming. It feels like, you know what I mean, already. But Yeah, we ended up doing a big Michigan trip and getting 10 or 12 interviews. Some of those are still coming out today.
Sure.
As we're getting this. And we've got about, we've got about 10 or so in the queue at all times, but we've got 4 or 5 I need to schedule now. Going to Texas, I always love being out there. I can't wait to go. Hoping to try to go out to like the Phoenix area, head out west. So when it's so weird, Bob, when you say go out west, we talk about going 10 hours. But 10 hours from where we are, you can be in, top of Pennsylvania, down the very top of Florida.
Right.
But you can be in Northeast Texas too. But when you go out west, 10 hours is nothing.
It doesn't hardly get you through Kansas, though.
Yeah. It's wild. It's so I've got to really plan.
Right.
And I do want to get out there, and it's probably going to be a couple different trips, maybe even a couple different times. We'll try to do like the, I-10, 20, up to maybe 40 and see how that goes. And then, hit some of 70 and 80 going out to, the northern part. And we'll try to sightsee a little bit while we're out there as best we can. But the more stuff you guys buy, the better, the more I can do that.
Right.
More advertising you guys.
There's a lot to see out that way.
Yeah, I can't wait. And then the shed side of things, trying to find the similarities and the differences out there. I always think those are interesting to tell. I mean, we never try to give anybody's competitive advantage away. We certainly won't on purpose, and we don't.
Sure.
We don't. Well, even with this interview, it's like I told you. If you need to hear it first, and we'll get it edited before we get it out there. We're not trying to hurt people's business. We're trying to help it, and
sure,
really just add value to people's day. Hello, this is Identigo. How can we help you?
Well, I was looking at getting some nameplates for my line of barns and wondered what options you got.
Well, that's simple. We've got full color aluminum sublimated ovals, coated black, Dura-Black, laser engraved custom plates, screen printed aluminum, die struck aluminum in rectangles, rounded rectangles, and ovals.
Is that everything?
No, sir. We've got bike plates, spot color or full color, tacker signs, 3D custom plates in black plastic, white plastic, custom plastic, 3D stock plates in rectangles and ovals, a neat little barn design, shields, and more.
Well, is that all?
No, sir. We've got 3D plastic in specialty sizes, mini 3D plastic, large 3D plastic, key fobs, soft plastic key fobs, 3D plastic key fobs, die struck key fobs, full color sublimated key fob.
Boy, I'm confused.
Well, we have many plates for different situations, taste, and pocketbooks, and we make it easy to find the one that is perfectly suited to your needs.
That sounds good. What info do you need to get started?
Identigo, helping identify your shed brand for over 20 years. For that reason, I didn't talk to you about this earlier, so I don't know. Maybe this will dry up. Maybe this is a bad, whatever. We'll roll with it. We'll see. Yeah. I've been giving everybody a chance to sort of turn the interview around to generate conversation. Interview the geek for a moment, sure. Whether it's personal, business, podcast related, shed related, whatever. If you just have any questions or things that come to mind or questions that you would have, real life questions here on the air, I want to answer those and give you my thoughts.
If you walked in here and you bought this place, what would be the first thing you'd change?
Oh, gosh. Great question. I would say looking at the lot itself, not a lot. You have really good signage. You have gravel everywhere. The buildings are displayed. Space in between them. They're displayed nicely. You put all your, shiny objects up front to bring people in. It complements your self-storage, which is right next door. I would make it obvious that it seems like it should be, and maybe I'm just dense, but I would make it obvious that we sell storage sheds here because you do have the 2 offices. I went to the other office first.
Gotcha.
Because I was like, in my head, I was like, I don't know. He does self-storage, but does he set in the actual storage building that he sells out of? I should have known, but a sign that says, storage building
office.
Sold here.
Yeah,
Either I missed it or, like I said, the obvious choice wasn't the one that I took. Yeah. So that would be, but beyond that, I would say not so much appearance, but man, what you're doing online would just increase your numbers so much more. Exactly. As I was sitting and listening to like you and how much you've sold over this time, I'm like, oh my gosh, you could probably even double that if you would actually be aggressive. I say aggressive. If you would take a strong online marketing presence, you would probably just soak up more business in the area.
You know, I don't know how many, companies out there are just standalone self-storage, or not self-storage, but shed lots. I think most of them probably started out at least, doing that as a side.
Yeah.
And probably saw the opportunity. Because, I've seen it firsthand of, what you can do with this business. I wouldn't need my sign shop. I really wouldn't need the self-storage. If I got aggressive online, yeah, you're right. It would probably easily double what we're doing.
This is what I love about doing, like turning the interview around for conversation. It creates some really good conversation that I wouldn't normally have just on my own. So the question becomes, whenever you talk about somebody who is selling in the consignment model on a secondary income. Okay, I'm gonna preach here, so
sure,
bear with me. I've seen so many guys that limit theirself because they don't know what's possible. Right. If they have a primary business and then the secondary business comes along, I think that there's a path in the road that you take at some point. Right. And I think that path is either we see the value and we're going to double down on the secondary business. Because in some cases, I've known guys who sold cars and started selling sheds and got out of the car business and started selling sheds completely.
Right.
Okay, it's not that they sell themselves or that they're easier. It just became, it became a better thing for them to sell.
Right.
It made more sense. Maybe they made more money. Maybe they were just happier because they weren't dealing with motors and transmissions.
Right. And the sheds don't need brakes.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So they weren't dealing with the customer complaints as much, whatever the reason was. So this is sort of my thoughts on that, Bob, like overall arching thoughts is I'll always ask more questions sometimes than advice I'll give. I remember asking an owner of a rent-owned company once, I said, do you think that you just hit it at the right time? When you got in, when it was good, the getting was good, or do you think you'd be successful in all areas of business if you ventured outside of what you're already known at, good at, and have established? But do you think you could take on a separate project and be equally successful in it?
Right.
Because I think that comes down to the person.
Sure.
When you said, I don't know how many guys do this as a secondary,
right?
Man, it hit. Because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I know guys who said, oh, well, we appreciate that you brought your sheds in, but we never really saw them move very much. And the question is, did they put any effort into it?
Sure.
Do they have a established sales approach?
Right.
So you had like all this like sales history,
sales background, right,
that you brought with it. And then you saw the value in investing in your property.
Right.
To do this. Like you said, would I have done it? I don't know. Maybe not.
Right.
But has it worked out?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's what's interesting. If you're a consignment guy and you're just doing this as a secondary, like even knowing that you could sell $1 million to $3 million a year, I think a lot of them don't know that. I think some do. There's some that do it and do it well and have done it for many years. And they're like, hey, this is a good living.
Yeah.
So,
well, before I was knee deep, I had no idea you could sell that much.
Yeah. Well, even if you're doing a standard, I guess probably fairly regular to assume that most people in the consignment space are doing 10%. If you sell $1 million a year, you've just braked in $100,000 after you take your expenses out. I know the median income in my county is like $35,000 or maybe even less. But, so if you can, outside of your expenses, like if you can still walk out with $60,000, $70,000 a year, you're probably doing better than the majority of the people.
Sure.
On an average.
Right.
Yeah, man. Anything else? Any other questions that you would have? Anything shed related, podcast related, or?
I don't know if I have any other questions.
That's all right. Yeah. Think them over and email me if you
right.
do. We'll answer them. But I appreciate the ones that you had. And believe it or not, we're almost at 50 minutes already. So time flies by whenever you're having fun and talking sheds. Any other thoughts that you have, Bob?
No, I appreciate you taking the time to come up here and talk to me.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
I've learned a lot from you actually today, so that's always good.
Good. Well, feel free to ask questions, man. I'm a pretty open book. Like to be as transparent as I know how to be, and do love the shed space and love getting to meet you. And I wish you nothing but success, man, in everything you do. Don't be a stranger, and you got a good product to sell.
Right.
You know, it sounds like you're on fire for what you're doing, man. And who knows, maybe I'll get me a place down in Florida one day and we'll be Illinois snowbirds.
Beach buddies.
Beach buddies. That'll work. Well, hey, I appreciate it. And thank you for listening to the show. It means a lot. It humbles me whenever anybody says they've listened, and I hope that they enjoy it. Guys, if you want to know more about the podcast, go to shedgeek.com. Feel free to fill out any forms if you want to know or have any questions about marketing or marketing plans. We're glad to talk with you. If you're an advertiser that wants to know anything about audience reach, we can do a pretty good job of getting that information to you down to how many people are listening. Surprisingly, on the call-in line, we're seeing, about 400 to 500 call-ins per week through the Plain Communities call-in line, and we're pretty well able to tell down to the city where people are listening. So if you're curious about audience reach, or you're looking for some way to partner with Shed Geek, we're open to that. If you're 3D configurators, if you're other marketers, you just want to have conversations, just know that the door is open. We'll use our platform to kind of open that up to tell everybody that, hey, we want to find a way to help us all move forward. Just thought I'd do a little commercial and soundbite.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what makes the wheel go round.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. All right, Bob, appreciate you being on Cardinal
Thanks,
Buildings. Yeah. Very cool things, man.